So this, if you see this website right up here, that is how to access here. It doesn't, GED.com doesn't have this in a very obvious place right now. So there are times when you have to click over here to go to the next page. There will be times where there's a scroll bar here on the right side where you got to slide up and down to move up and down, and there's hidden text. So both can happen. The point is, it would be very easy for someone who is fatigued and tired to think that this is all there is and that this question goes to something that you can see on page 1. We have to click to move on to the next thing. Now that's the bad news. What's the good news? You get to read the question and the answers first. So which quotation from the passage supports the idea that Sapid is teaching a narrator a skill that relies practice? So now before we start reading, we're looking for too busy, drink, each step. When we are boys, we practice. So I'm looking for the words too busy, exaggerated, rhinoceros, or tribe, or something. Now, I'm not ignoring things, but I'm looking for the thing to focus on. And, we look until we find it. One quick hint is anytime it's quoted material and it's in quotation marks, that is always, it starts a new paragraph. So right back here on page 2, there's no quoted material in there. Because not only can you not see a quotation marks, but it doesn't start like this one does. So that's familiarity. And this isn't teaching to the test. It is instead critical thinking skills and going, what has to be where for me to get this thing right? So obviously lots of dialogue here, and we are looking for dialogue. So that's how our eyeball can help us out from the beginning. And we can be, I could use a drink of water. There you go. Well, anyway, something's here. Rhinoceroses, we practice on rhinoceroses, whatever. And you can do this. I'm doing it. I just got lost there. The flag for review thing is up here. You have to answer, and I'm just going to guess that. Why not? And you got to hit next. Do not hit the forward or back on the browser. It'll kick you out. And they say that in the beginning. But we got to hit previous and next. And you can go back, which is nice. And just because it's here, I just want to point out that word. Infer means it's not going to be directly said. Infer means lean in. And when you're reading something, you've got, it's not going to be directly said. So we need to know it's about the narrator, and we've got to read these first. Some will be true, some will be half true, some will be false. But what is the safest, most rock solid thing that we can interpret? Those questions are tough. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just curious. Then there's specific ones like this. Love that. So occupied. This is you know what this is good, valuable stuff here. Occupied has multiple meanings. All of them are legit. So if I just said occupied, what does occupied mean? There's a bunch of different things. And if you look at all of these, they're all legit. To have a position or have a job, to take up time, to be a resident, or to have control of a space, like, a war of occupation. All of them are legit. The only qualifying part is, how is it being used in paragraph 16, which is here. So now I have to get the context around it and go, which one of these 4 is, here's the word, best. It's not right versus wrong. It's best versus worst, or strongest versus weak. And that is tough, because math, the answer is 7. In any of the humanities, it is which best does this. And that is their way of saying a lot of them could be slightly right, but best is a relative term. All right, one more click. Just curious what the next one is going to be. All right, worth talking about. As soon as you see the word excerpt, that means this story what this beginning is not the beginning of the story. This is like flipping through channels, and it's a movie that you've always wanted to see, and it's 42 minutes into the movie. You don't know who the good guy is, bad guys. You don't know if you're in London. You don't know what decade it is, what any of that stuff. So when you see excerpt, you have to know you're going to get a ton of elements that will not be defined. Some you can figure out, oh, that's their mother. Or when they said Bob and Marcia, I thought they were married, but they're brother and sister. You know what I mean? So there's interpretive skills that have to happen. They do that on purpose because the beginning of stuff is exposition where they throw out all the facts. But this is interpretive skills. Just like infer is to lean in and go, what is being not said here? Excerpt is, wow, you're in the middle of the, Matthew, here comes Matthew. What can you know? From this sentence, you know he is capable of opening a door. And that's it. So he hit it with his head, or he kicked it down, or he actually does have hands, or whatever. That's all we know. And then we pick up facts. Oh, we're just there. We got a last name. And then, okay, we're getting some information. So that means, okay, I gotta, I'm gonna watch the rest of this movie, but I'm gonna figure out who's related to who. Can't resist. Gotta click on another one. Then
gotta find out more.
Then order of events. This is helpful because it's showing you the types of questions. This thing is not important. The story is not important. It's this stuff, getting familiar with what they're going to ask us to do. What happens first? Well, quit crying, Annie. That's got to be somewhere in there. That's like that Michael Jackson song, Annie, are you okay? Are you okay?
Okay. You okay?
But okay, so here, it sure looks like there's only two things here. Oh, yeah. And you got to scroll down. So we got to, I mean, if we're not feeling too...
Well, the scroll doesn't show unless you're...
I didn't even see that.
Right.
I didn't even see that. You got to scroll for the scroll bar to show up.
Yeah. Ooh, I mean, I was actually thinking that, wait a minute, how come there's 4 spaces and 2 blacks? But,
yeah.
I mean, I would have a big advantage on this if I were taking it, because this was one of my favorite books when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, Green Gables?
I'd be a step ahead. But, I don't even think people read it anymore.
Yeah. That's like, yeah. It's tough what they have to choose in high school. It is tough. They better nail 19 different things with every book they choose. But anyway, even over here, look, you got to click on the pages, but you can kind of scroll. So if I'm scrolling, maybe I forget to, it's just, I mean, they're trying to do 2 things at once. They're trying to make the question accessible alongside the text. And we are going to get significant amounts of copyrighted text that are going to be embedded into this information. So we have to be familiar with it. We have to look at this stuff and understand that, yeah, you're right. I mean, that's garbage. It sure looks like I did all that I'm supposed to do right there. And this is one of those questions where it has to be 100% right. There's no partial credit. And if I don't scroll down, you're right, no scroll bar, except when I scroll, oh, these other 2 things. Oh my gosh. And now I have a chance for this to be right. It's brutal. But we familiarize ourselves. We've got to familiarize ourselves. So here's another drag and drop. We got to throw in, what is Annie? She's dramatic, she's enthusiastic, she's whatever. And this is another interpretive thing, because I guarantee, well, don't guarantee anything, but the word dramatic probably doesn't appear here. So we've got to be a lean-in kind of person. Then we got some, okay, I don't know, but I have a feeling that this letter does not end with a fragment with the word repairs. So this is there you go. You got to slide down. Not only slide down, but to get to this next part where what are you selecting?
You got to complete the sentence.
Yeah, and there's 3 of them. If we don't scroll down, it sure looks like I do 2. I hit next. I move on. Fatigue and distract, right? Those are the two things in standardized tests. Fatigue, wear the person out. Distract, give them information that doesn't reply or is written in an embedded way. And if you will be tired, you will be. And this to me is just not fair to say that you have to scroll down with the invisible scroll bar or tap the down arrow, because as soon as this stops moving, that disappears. We have to know this stuff. It does not measure what do we know. It measures what can we figure out, and what can we figure out in this tricky way of doing things. So let's continue the tour. Now, oh my gosh. Carol, I'm gonna lose my mind. If I start bleeding out of my ears, call 911. See how this says Article 1? See how this question does not mention that there's a second article? This is a comparison between two articles. And nowhere on the screen, the initial screen, does it say it.
I mean, I think the big conclusion is you really have to at least click through all the, you have to look for pages.
Yeah.
I'm pointing at my screen like y'all can see it. You have to click through all the pages that display so that you get a sense of how much is there, and look for scroll up and down to see if you're going to need to move around up and down, because obviously the question's going to have something to do. You're going to have to look at some of the other pages for some of the questions.
Yeah. But I mean, so if we go through them, Article 1, so this is a summary of Harry Truman civil rights. So even like right here, as I'm clicking page 2 and page 3, I can forget who's talking. You know what I mean? I mean, think if this is at the end of part 1, which is such a long part of the test, I'm like, okay, Truman completed speak, okay, did that, and then suddenly, okay, who's Eleanor Roosevelt? That's the lady in right here.
Well, you know it's her. You at least have a visual. I think that's
yeah. But you know what I mean? Everything's squashed together, you know, scrollable stuff, but nowhere on there does it say from the beginning this is a comparison of two texts. Now, comparison of two texts is something we got to be good at and we got to prepare for. But man, it'd be nice if the question said it, or something beyond just that. So anyway,
the question, I don't even know if the question is comparing. It's just content.
Oh my gosh, you might be right. Mention the United Nations
and the UN Commission on Human Rights during his speech to the NAACP in order to show blank. And then you have to know, you have to have at least skimmed through those 5 pages to know how to answer them.
Right. And now if we hit the next, there may be a second question there, but so what is this an advertisement? This is a commercial for read the question and the answers first. I mean, they're going through a lot of trouble making this thing awkward.
Can you go to next without?
Sure. Oh yeah. We can go back.
Flag it, or can you just
okay. Yeah, and we can go back. So that now here's the second question is Eleanor. So there you go. So this is a comparison between two texts, which is its own skill and worthy of its own study. Yeah.
That's just knowing what I think that one's more factual. It isn't even as tricky as what is inferred. It's more.
And 75% of the reading selections are informational text. 25% is literature. So they pick on stuff that is not, I mean, the majority of it is not interpreted. So they save the infer stuff for literature. Oh my gosh. All right, so here's short writing. Okay, so this is an example of the essay. Okay, Carol, look at this. You're a writing person. You teach people to write. Here's the 45-minute, section 2 of the RLA test. Analysis of daylight savings time. The most exciting, emotional thing you could possibly. This will change your life. Good old Ben
But I get a
Franklin.
little sleep.
Yeah, no, like I'm yawning right now. I want to live my life so that 1 year I don't know that it's that Sunday where you get the extra hour. You know what I mean? It's just
For
like
that.
I always somehow somebody always says it. I'm like, just don't tell me. I just want to get that bonus
See what
hour,
it's like.
and then that would be the most peaceful sleep ever. Like God just gave you.
Want to hear my story about daylight savings time? When
Please.
my husband and I were first married, we would show up at this 9 a.m. mass, and we had to take a train to get there. So we were living in Chicago. So 9 a.m. was always kind of early, and so we arrived late many times. And this week, 1 week in October, we arrived late. We came in, we sang the opening song with everybody.
Oh no!
Everybody stood up to walk out. What? Because we did exactly that. We didn't know it was daylight savings time. We just showed up at the regular time, and it was the time change. And so we got there an hour late. And everybody, we thought it was beginning, and it was actually
you caught the 7:30 show. Did you look up to God like, does this count?
That. Everybody knew what was going on. They were like, look at these two, they arrived for the final hymn.
That's great. That's great.
Speaking of daylight savings time, it's supposed to end on the 7th.
Yeah. Yeah, this is
Saturday
the bonus day.
Right? Fall back, get an extra hour. I like that.
So here is part 2. Oh, and this is question 10 of 10. My dog's barking. So this is the word. I mean, the RLA is effective as a bunch of. The GED does its job or whatever, but clearly they don't. The writing portion is pretty sad.
So you have to spend 45 minutes planning, drafting, and creating, basically writing a response to.
And look at the size of
writing. And that's what you have to write it in, that little tiny box.
And look at the size of the font.
How do you move around in it?
I mean, look at that. It's what, a few words across, and you're supposed to. I mean, obviously, we want to plan. You know, if you fail to plan on failing. This is essay writing. This is begging for 5 to 7 paragraphs. So if either 5-paragraph essay with the 3-body paragraphs and all the referring back to the text and all those skills, you get 45 minutes to do it. Planning, drafting, and editing your response, all that gets inputted goes into that tiniest box that once you put a bunch of stuff in here, it's now scrolled. You know what I'm saying? And as soon as how can somebody effectively write like that? So these are the rules that we're given. This is the area where we're going to get judged. And when you take the RLA test, you get your results back in 15 minutes, which guarantees that no one read it. So is that a reason to not teach writing? Of course not. Is it a reason to not appreciate writing? Because writing is organized thought and it's crucial. But our number one objective is to pass the test. So, and you don't sit there with a clock ticking 45 minutes off before you can move on to the grammar. But we don't want to go into the test shocked that I have to write there. And how nice it is that they give us cut, copy, paste, undo, redo. That's nice. So we get to undo some stuff, but we still got to scroll.
Even if they gave you 45 minutes, I don't think I would be able to finish it.
Yep.
I don't even see how to get this cut, copy, paste work because it's not working for me.
Well, it would be so that you could quote that.
No, I understand, but I'm trying to do that right now.
Well, that doesn't even work. Are you kidding me?
It doesn't. Not on this practice one.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, if I was doing this just to practice at home, I'd just go to Word and practice. Although Word's a lot easier to work with, but yeah, it's terrible. At least for me, I don't know. Maybe yours allows you to.
Nope. And you can't, yeah, you can't click out into any other thing while you take the test or anything like that. So we don't want anybody taking the test to get shocked when they see that this is what it looks like. And it's like if you had spent.
Yeah, it actually is really helpful to just see what they'll present to you. I'm sure in the actual one, it probably functions, the cut, copy, paste. But
I would hope so.
you have your little whiteboard to try to jot down a few ideas if you're right. That's the only thing you have to be able to write down some ideas.
Yeah. I mean, I've taught you taught writing. I love teaching writing because it's the number one thing people hate. And I think people hate teaching writing because we were taught by people who hated to teach writing. So I love it. And I barely take off points and everything. Everything's like, hey, just improve it, make it, there's no perfect, but you can perfect, make a little bit of word here, a little adjustment, start using an adverb here and there, some adjectives, pick your adjectives well, all that stuff. And if this is how it's evaluated, it's like the Hunger Games when Katniss is doing all her stuff and nobody's watching, so she shoots an arrow up at the judges. I don't know. I've only seen that movie once. But if you're not being judged, if nobody's looking at the work you're doing, that can be pretty dang frustrating. So, but anyway, it's worthy to do the work, etc. So that is that. And I don't know if this goes to part 3. I have an opportunity. I don't want to look at I didn't answer anything. How'd I do? It does give you a chance. This is where if you flag a question, you can go back and do it like the Family Feud style. And then you got to click over here to end the test. So that's a little bit different. Yes, I do want to end the test. So it didn't do any grammar. There's grammar, obviously, 8 or 9 questions about grammar, punctuation, spelling. Grammar, punctuation, spelling. Grammar, punctuation, spelling. I'm brain dead right now. Anyway, it'll come to me. It's written down. Also pronouns. Pronoun, subject, verb agreement. All that stuff is going to be there. So here's where you can sign up to take the practice test or whatever, and the vouchers and all that junk. So we got to know the territory before we show up, and that is limited. So we take the good, we take the bad. That's the start of the Facts of Life show. I don't remember that one. Take the good, take the bad, whatever. I get any sleep last night. The good is that you can see the question and the text next to each other, and always know your task before you do it. Don't play games with yourself. You saw in that previous paper test that they played games. You got to read that 26 paragraph thing and then ask a vague question about theme to an 8th grader. And that is just, it's not effective. You guys can see the screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. For a second, it's not glowing green, so usually. All right, that was a long time. I'm still recording. Oh my gosh.